Princess Hope of Ramana stands before the imposing figure of her father, King Zorak, in the cavernous royal chamber. The air is thick with tension as the king's piercing gaze fixes upon his daughter. "Hope, the future of our species rests on your shoulders," Zorak's voice booms, echoing off the metallic walls. "Our fertility crisis threatens to extinguish the Raman race. You must journey to Earth and prove our genetic compatibility with humans." Hope's antennae twitch nervously as she processes her father's words. The weight of her mission settles upon her, heavy and unyielding. Zorak continues, his tone brooking no argument. "You will seduce a human male. Use this advanced shape-shifting technology to assume human form." He hands her a sleek, pulsing device. "Your target is David Foster, a geneticist working on a classified human genome project. The information he possesses could be invaluable to our cause." Hope nods, her resolve strengthening. "I understand, Father. I will not fail you or our people." "Good. Your stealth ship awaits in the royal hangar. Remember, Hope, the fate of Ramana depends on your success." Hours later, Hope's ship pierces Earth's atmosphere, landing in a secluded area outside New York City. As she steps onto human soil for the first time, she activates the shape-shifting device. Her Raman features melt away, replaced by the visage of a stunningly beautiful human woman. Hope Foster, as she now calls herself, makes her way to the bustling city. She secures an apartment in the same complex as her target and begins to frequent his usual haunts. Her engineered human beauty and Raman pheromones work in tandem, drawing curious glances from passers-by. David Foster, a 28-year-old geneticist, first encounters Hope at a local coffee shop. He's immediately struck by her exotic allure, but a nagging sense of wariness holds him back. Hope senses his hesitation and redoubles her efforts, engaging him in conversation about his work. As days pass, Hope gathers intelligence on human genetics while pursuing her primary objective. She finds herself experiencing unfamiliar emotions, curiosity, empathy, and something deeper she can't quite name. These feelings conflict with her royal Raman upbringing and mission parameters, causing internal turmoil. David, despite his initial reservations, finds himself increasingly drawn to Hope. Her intense interest in his work both flatters and intrigues him. Unbeknownst to either of them, their growing connection is about to be threatened by forces beyond their control. In a nondescript office building across town, a member of the covert human organization Xenoguard stares at a computer screen, brow furrowed in concentration. Anomalous readings flicker across the monitor, all centered around the recent arrival of one Hope Foster. As the agent begins to dig deeper, the true nature of Hope's mission hangs in the balance, threatening to expose the Raman plot and jeopardize both Hope and David's futures. The stage is set for a clash of worlds, where the fate of two species will be decided by the unlikely connection between a human scientist and an alien princess in disguise. As Hope left the coffee shop, her eyes lingered on David's retreating form. She touched the shape-shifting device concealed beneath her clothing, a reminder of her true purpose. The bustling New York street faded into the background as she focused on her next move. Over the following days, Hope orchestrated a series of encounters with David. She appeared at his workplace, a state-of-the-art genetics lab, under the guise of delivering lunch to a non-existent colleague. As David exited the building, Hope accidentally bumped into him, spilling coffee on his lab coat. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with feigned shock. "Let me help you clean that up." David smiled, recognizing her from the coffee shop. "Hope, right? No worries, it's just a lab coat. Are you lost? This is a restricted area." Hope's antennae twitched beneath her illusory human form. "I was supposed to deliver lunch to a friend, but I must have the wrong building. Since I'm here, would you like to grab a coffee to replace the one I spilled?" David hesitated, but Hope's Raman pheromones worked their subtle magic. "Sure, why not? I could use a break." At the nearby park, Hope steered their conversation towards David's work. "So, tell me about this classified project you're working on. It sounds fascinating." David's eyes lit up. "Well, I can't go into specifics, but we're making incredible progress in understanding genetic markers that could revolutionize disease prevention." Hope leaned in, her interest genuine despite her ulterior motives. "That's amazing, David. Your work could change countless lives." As they talked, Hope felt an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. She found herself captivated by David's passion for his work, his kindness, and his quick wit. This wasn't part of the mission parameters. Across town, in a nondescript office building, Agent Marcus Steele of Xenogard scrutinized surveillance footage of Hope and David's interaction. He rewound the video, focusing on Hope's unnaturally fluid movements and the faint shimmer around her form. Imperceptible to the human eye, but clear as day to Xenogard's advanced technology. "There's something off about this woman," Steele muttered to his team. "Increase surveillance on both targets. I want to know every move they make." As days turned into weeks, Hope's presence became a constant in David's life. She appeared at his favorite coffee shop each morning, joined him for lunch in the park, and coincidentally bumped into him at the grocery store. With each encounter, David's initial wariness faded, replaced by a growing attraction to this enigmatic woman. One evening, as they walked along the Hudson River, David turned to Hope. "You know, when we first met, I thought it was too good to be true. A beautiful, intelligent woman who's genuinely interested in my work. But now," he trailed off, his hand brushing against hers. Hope's heart raced, her Riemann biology reacting in ways she'd never experienced. She intertwined her fingers with his, the touch sending electric pulses through her shape-shifted form. "And now," she prompted, her voice barely above a whisper. David leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a tender kiss. Hope's mind reeled, torn between her mission and the unexpected emotions coursing through her. As they parted, David smiled softly. "Now, I'm glad I was wrong." In that moment, Hope made a decision. She would complete her mission, but she would find a way to do it without betraying David's trust. She convinced herself that by helping the Ramans, she would also be helping humanity, 2 birds with 1 stone. The next day, Hope visited David at his lab, bringing him lunch. As he worked, she casually glanced at his computer screen, her advanced Riemann mind quickly processing and memorizing the complex genetic data displayed there. "David," she said, her voice carefully neutral, "have you ever considered the implications of your work beyond disease prevention? Could it potentially be used to enhance human resilience in other ways?" David paused, considering her question. "You know, that's an interesting thought. We've been so focused on specific diseases, we haven't really explored the broader applications. Why do you ask?" Hope shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "Just curious. Your work is so groundbreaking, I can't help but wonder about all the possibilities." As David launched into an excited explanation of potential applications, Hope's shape-shifting device pulsed warmly against her skin. She was making progress, but at what cost? Meanwhile, in the depths of space, a Riemann scout ship silently approached Earth. King Zorak's patience was wearing thin, and he demanded results. The ship's advanced cloaking technology rendered it invisible to Earth's defense systems as it entered the atmosphere, adding another player to the complex game unfolding on the planet's surface. Back in New York, Agent Steele's suspicions reached a boiling point. He gathered his team, pointing to a holographic display of Hope's movements over the past weeks. "There's no doubt about it. This woman is not human. We need to act now, before she can carry out whatever plan she's hatching." As Hope and David's relationship deepened, they planned a weekend getaway to a secluded cabin in the Catskill Mountains. Hope saw it as the perfect opportunity to complete her mission, while David viewed it as a chance to take their relationship to the next level. The night before their departure, Hope stood before the mirror in her apartment, her human disguise shimmering as she contemplated her next move. The fate of her people rested on her shoulders, but so did the trust of the man she had grown to care for deeply. In the pre-dawn hours, as Hope and David prepared for their mountain retreat, 3 forces converged. The Xenogard team mobilized for interception, the Riemann scout ship descended towards the Catskills, and Hope steeled herself for the most important and most difficult phase of her mission. As they drove out of the city, the rising sun painted the sky in hues of pink and gold. Hope gazed at David's profile, illuminated by the early morning light, and felt the weight of her deception pressing down on her. The mountain cabin awaited, promising a weekend that would change everything. For Hope, for David, for Earth, and for the future of the Riemann race. The winding mountain road stretched before them as Hope and David left the bustling city behind. Hope's fingers tightened on the steering wheel, her mind racing with thoughts of the mission ahead. She glanced at David, who gazed out the window at the passing scenery, oblivious to the storm brewing within her. As they approached the cabin, the dense forest engulfed them, dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy. Hope pulled into the gravel driveway, the car's tires crunching as they came to a stop. The cabin stood before them, a rustic haven nestled among towering pines. "It's beautiful," David breathed, taking in the sight of the log structure and the shimmering lake beyond. Hope nodded, forcing a smile. Perfect for a quiet weekend away. As they unpacked the car, Hope's senses tingled. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her eyes darted to the tree line, searching for any sign of movement, but she saw nothing out of the ordinary. Unbeknownst to the couple, Agent Marcus Steele and his Xenoguard team were setting up a hidden base of operations nearby. Steele peered through high-tech binoculars, his eyes sharp in tenacity. "All units in position," a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Copy that," Steele replied. "Maintain surveillance. Do not engage unless authorized." Above the forest canopy, the cloaked Riemann scout ship hovered silently. Inside, the crew monitored Hope's vital signs and gathered data on the surrounding area. As evening fell, Hope prepared a romantic dinner for two. The cabin's interior glowed with soft candlelight, casting dancing shadows on the walls. David uncorked a bottle of wine, pouring 2 glasses. "To us," he said, raising his glass with a smile. Hope clinked her glass against his, her heart heavy with the weight of her deception. As they ate, she steered the conversation towards David's work, her Riemann mind cataloging every detail he revealed about the classified genome project. "You know," David said, his eyes alight with excitement, "we've made some incredible breakthroughs recently. We've identified genetic markers that could potentially enhance human resilience to extreme environments." Hope leaned forward, her interest piqued. "That's fascinating, David. How exactly would that work?" As David launched into an explanation, Hope's shape-shifting device pulsed warmly against her skin. She was making progress, but the cost felt higher with each passing moment. After dinner, they moved to the couch, the crackling fireplace casting a warm glow across the room. Hope inched closer to David, her Riemann pheromones working their subtle magic. She placed a hand on his thigh, her touch sending a visible shiver through him. "David," she murmured, her voice low and alluring, "I've been thinking about this moment for so long." Their lips met in a passionate kiss, hands roaming as their embrace intensified. Hope's mind raced, torn between her mission and her genuine feelings for David. As things heated up, she guided him towards the bedroom. Outside, Steele watched the cabin intently. "Movement towards the bedroom," he reported. "Prepare to move in." The Riemann scout ship detected the sudden flurry of activity below. "Alert," the ship's AI announced. "Potential threat to the princess detected." Inside the cabin, Hope and David were lost in their passionate encounter. Hope's shape-shifting technology began to falter, her concentration wavering as her emotions took over. Just as things reached a fever pitch, the cabin door burst open with a thunderous crash. Xenoguard agents flooded the room, their weapons trained on Hope. David recoiled in shock, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. In the chaos, Hope's true form began to emerge, her human disguise flickering like a faulty hologram. "David, I can explain," Hope began, but her words were cut short as Agent Steele fired a containment field at her. Hope's Riemann instincts kicked in. She moved with inhuman speed and agility, dodging the energy blast and sending 2 Xenoguard agents flying with a powerful sweep of her arm. David scrambled for cover, his world turned upside down in a matter of seconds. The Riemann scout ship sprang into action, descending from its hiding place with a deafening roar. Its weapons systems targeted the Xenoguard forces, firing warning shots that scorched the earth around the cabin. Hope fought her way through the chaos, her partially revealed Riemann features contorting with the effort. She reached for David, who flinched away from her touch. "Please," she pleaded, "I never meant to hurt you." Before David could respond, a stray energy blast from the scout ship struck the cabin's power generator. The resulting explosion rocked the foundation, sending everyone to the ground. Hope instinctively threw herself over David, shielding him from the falling debris. As the dust settled, Hope and David found themselves alone amidst the wreckage. Unconscious Xenoguard agents lay scattered around them, and the smoldering remains of the Riemann scout ship smoked in the distance. Hope helped David to his feet, her true form now fully visible. "We need to go," she said urgently. "More will come." David stared at her, a mix of fear and fascination in his eyes. "What are you?" "I'll explain everything," Hope promised. "But right now, we need to run." They sprinted to Agent Steele's vehicle, Hope quickly overriding its security systems. As they sped away from the destruction, the weight of their new reality settled over them. They were fugitives now, caught between two worlds, with nowhere to turn but to each other. David gripped the dashboard, his knuckles tightening. "Tell me the truth, Hope. All of it." Hope took a deep breath, her antennae twitching nervously. As they raced through the night, she began to unravel the story of her Raman origins and the true purpose of her mission to Earth. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The roar of the engine filled the night as Hope and David sped away from the destruction behind them. The adrenaline of their narrow escape slowly ebbed, replaced by a tense silence. David's grip on the dashboard loosened, but his eyes remained fixed on Hope's alien features. A mix of fear and fascination etched across his face. "We need a safe place," Hope said, her voice steady despite the chaos of the past hour. "I know a hidden outpost not far from here. We can regroup and plan our next move." David nodded, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his shock. "Is it Riemann?" "Yes," Hope replied, her antennae twitching nervously. "It's disguised as an abandoned warehouse in a small town upstate. We should be able to find supplies there, maybe even a way to contact my father." As they drove through the darkness, Hope's shape-shifting technology continued to malfunction. Her appearance flickered between human and Riemann, the constant changes drawing David's attention. "I suppose I owe you a full explanation," Hope said, noticing his gaze. She began to detail Riemann physiology, their advanced technology, and the intricacies of their culture. David listened intently, his scientific mind absorbing every detail. "Our shape-shifting abilities are more than just disguise," Hope explained. "It's deeply ingrained in our biology, allowing us to adapt to various environments." David's voice was quiet when he spoke. "And the reason for your mission? Why Earth?" Hope's expression softened. "Our species is facing a fertility crisis. We're on the brink of extinction, David. My father, he believed human genetics held the key to our survival." The weight of her words hung heavy in the air between them. As the night wore on, their conversation deepened, touching on hopes, fears, and the complex emotions that had grown between them. Dawn was breaking as they approached the outpost. Hope's heart sank as they drew closer. Even from a distance, she could see signs of disturbance. "Something's wrong," she said, pulling the car to a stop a safe distance away. "It's been compromised." They approached cautiously, Hope's Riemann senses on high alert. The warehouse door hung askew, and as they entered, the signs of a recent struggle were evident. Damaged equipment littered the floor, and the walls bore scorch marks from energy weapons. "Xenoguard was here," Hope said, examining a discarded human weapon. "But they weren't alone. Look." She pointed to a crushed piece of Raman technology. They moved deeper into the facility, gathering what useful resources they could find. Hope located a cache of advanced communication devices, while David found a stock of medical supplies. As they searched, David stumbled upon a partially destroyed computer terminal. His fingers flew over the keyboard, his expertise in genetics guiding him through the alien interface. "Hope, look at this," he called out. On the screen, fragments of data coalesced into a clear picture of the Riemann fertility crisis. "This provides crucial context for your mission. The genetic incompatibility, the rapid decline in birth rates, it's all here." Hope leaned in, her eyes widening as she absorbed the information. "This is more severe than I realized. No wonder my father was so desperate." A noise from deeper within the facility cut their discovery short. Hope pushed David behind her, her body tensing for combat. From the shadows emerged a group of Raymans, their weapons trained on Hope and David. "Princess Hope," the leader said, lowering his weapon slightly. "I am Commander Vex. We've been waiting for you." Hope's stance remained defensive. "You're not part of my father's loyal forces." Vex nodded. "We've broken away from King Zorak's rule. His methods for solving our crisis are misguided. We believe diplomacy with humans is the answer, not deception." Before Hope could respond, the sound of approaching vehicles filled the air. Through the warehouse windows, they could see Xenoguard forces surrounding the building. "All units, move in," Agent Steele's voice carried from outside. "Secure the alien targets and the human collaborator." The warehouse erupted into chaos. Energy blasts from Xenoguard weapons illuminated the dim interior, while Raymond technology created force fields and diversion. Hope sprang into action, her combat training evident as she fought to protect David. David, for his part, used his knowledge of the facility's layout to create escape routes and distractions. He overloaded power cells, causing localized blackouts that allowed them to evade capture. In the midst of the battle, Hope's shape-shifting device took a direct hit. She cried out in pain as her form destabilized, settling into a hybrid of her human and Riemann features. David rushed to her side, his concern evident. "I'm okay," she assured him, touching her new form with a mix of wonder and sadness. "But I can't change back now." As the fight intensified, David made his way to a secured section of the facility. Inside, he found a device unlike anything he'd seen before. Its design incorporated both Riemann and human elements, a fusion of technologies that sparked an idea in his mind. "Hope," he called out, "I think I've found something important." But before he could explain his discovery, a violent tremor shook the building. Alarms blared as the facility's power core, damaged in the initial struggle, began to overload. "We need to evacuate now," Commander Vex shouted. "The core is going critical." In the frantic rush to escape, Hope and David became separated from both the Xenoguard and the rogue Raymonds. They fled into the early morning light, the prototype device clutched tightly in David's arms. Behind them, the warehouse exploded in a brilliant flash of energy, the shockwave knocking them to the ground. As the dust settled, Hope and David found themselves alone once again, but now with a potential key to solving the conflict between their species. "What is that?" Hope asked, gesturing to the device David held. "I think it's a genetic harmonizer," David explained, his voice filled with excitement despite their dire situation. "If I'm right, this could be the solution to the Raymond fertility crisis. No deception, no forced breeding programs. Just pure science." Hope's eyes widened with hope, but the sound of approaching sirens cut their moment short. The explosion had drawn attention, and they knew they couldn't linger. "We need to go off the grid," Hope said, helping David to his feet. "Both my people and yours will be hunting us now." David nodded, his drive matching Hope's. "Then we'll disappear. We have the key to saving both our species. We just need time to make it work." As they set off into the unknown, Hope and David shared a look of understanding. Their relationship had evolved far beyond its deceptive beginnings, forged now in shared danger and a common purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The road stretched out before them, leading to an uncertain future. But with the genetic harmonizer in their possession and their combined knowledge, they carried with them the potential to bridge the gap between two worlds and change the course of both human and Riemann history. The sun had barely risen when Hope and David set out from the ruins of the warehouse, the prototype genetic harmonizer clutched tightly in David's arms. They moved swiftly through the countryside, their eyes constantly scanning for signs of pursuit. "We need to get off the main roads," Hope said, her new hybrid form allowing her to easily keep pace with David. "I know a place where we might be safe, at least for a while." David nodded, his scientific mind already racing with possibilities. "Where?" "The Rocky Mountains," Hope replied, her antennae twitching as she sensed the area around them. "There's a hidden research facility there, isn't there? One of your colleagues mentioned it once." David's eyes widened in recognition. "Dr. Chen's lab. It's perfect, isolated, well-equipped, and off the grid. But how do we get there?" As if in answer, they came across an abandoned farm near the outskirts of town. An old pickup truck sat in the driveway, Its paint faded, but its engine still serviceable. Hope made quick work of the ignition, her ramming abilities proving useful once again. They drove in tense silence for hours, taking back roads and avoiding major highways. The harmonizer sat between them, a tangible reminder of the weight of their mission. As the terrain grew more rugged, they were forced to abandon the truck and continue on foot. The Rocky Mountains loomed before them, their peaks shrouded in mist. Hope and David began their arduous trek, the harmonizer now carefully packed in David's backpack. The journey was grueling, testing both their physical endurance and their dedication. As they navigated a particularly treacherous mountain pass, Hope's foot slipped on loose gravel. She teetered on the edge of a steep drop, her arms windmilling for balance. David lunged forward, grabbing her hand and pulling her to safety. They stood there for a moment, hearts pounding, their bodies pressed close together. "Thank you," Hope whispered, her eyes meeting David's. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. David swallowed hard, his hand still holding hers. "We should keep moving," he said softly, though he made no move to step away. The moment was broken by the distant sound of a helicopter. They quickly took cover under an overhanging rock, watching as a black chopper with the Xenogard insignia passed overhead. "That was close," David muttered as the sound faded into the distance. Hope nodded, her expression grim. "Too close. We need to hurry." They pushed on through the night, Hope's enhanced vision guiding them through the darkness. As dawn broke, they finally spotted their destination, a nondescript building nestled in a hidden valley, its exterior designed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding rock. Approaching cautiously, they made their way to a concealed entrance. David punched in a complex code, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. "David?" a voice called out from inside. "Is that you?" Dr. Eliza Chen emerged from the shadows, her eyes widening as she took in Hope's alien features and the battered state of both travelers. "Dr. Chen," David said, relief evident in his voice, "we need your help. The fate of 2 worlds depends on it." The geneticist's gaze sharpened, her scientific curiosity piqued. "Come inside quickly. You can explain everything once you've rested." As they entered the facility, Hope felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She stumbled, catching herself against the wall. "Hope?" David's voice was thick with concern. "Are you all right?" She nodded, trying to shake off the strange sensation. "Just tired, I think. It's been a long journey." Dr. Chen led them to a small living area where they could clean up and rest. As Hope showered, she noticed subtle changes in her body, a slight swelling in her abdomen, and increased sensitivity to touch. She dismissed it as a side effect of her hybrid state, but a nagging doubt lingered in the back of her mind. Meanwhile, David briefed Dr. Chen on their situation, showing her the genetic harmonizer. The older scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement as she examined the device. "This is incredible," she murmured. "The potential applications. We need to get to work immediately." As Hope joined them, still feeling slightly off balance, David noticed her discomfort. "Hope, maybe you should rest a bit longer. Dr. Chen and I can start analyzing the harmonizer." Hope shook her head firmly. "No, I need to be part of this. My people's future depends on it." Dr. Chen nodded, leading them to her state-of-the-art lab. "Then let's begin. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I have a feeling time is not on our side." As they set to work, none of them noticed the faint blip on one of the lab's long-range sensors, a signal that heralded the arrival of Riemann warships in Earth's orbit and the beginning of a countdown to potential interplanetary war. Conflict. The harmonizer hummed softly in David's hands, a beacon of hope amidst the growing chaos. Suddenly, Hope doubled over, clutching her abdomen. A cry of pain escaped her lips, echoing through the lab. "Hope!" David rushed to her side, supporting her as she stumbled. Dr. Chen's eyes widened in realization. "She's in labor. The hybrid physiology must have accelerated the pregnancy." Outside, the sound of approaching aircraft and ground vehicles grew louder. The lab's security systems blared to life, holographic screens displaying the advancing forces of Xenogard, Rogue Remnants, and King Zorak's loyalists. "We need to get her to the medical bay," Dr. Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the mounting pressure. As they half-carried Hope down the corridor, The first impact shook the facility. The lab's advanced defenses engaged, creating a shimmering force field around the perimeter. In the medical bay, Hope's labor intensified rapidly. Her hybrid form shifted and pulsed, her body struggling to accommodate the unprecedented birth. David held her hand, his face a mask of concern and perseverance. "The contractions are too fast," Dr. Chen reported, monitoring the vital signs. "We need to stabilize her condition." David's mind raced, combining his knowledge of human and Raman biology. "The harmonizer," he said suddenly. "We can use it to regulate her genetic fluctuations." As Dr. Chen calibrated the device, another tremor rocked the lab. The security feeds showed King Zorak himself leading the charge, his face twisted with a mixture of rage and desperation. Hope screamed, her body arching off the bed. In a blinding flash of energy, a cry pierced the air, not of pain, but of new life. Dr. Chen held up a squirming infant, its skin a mottled pattern of human and Raman tones, tiny antennae twitching above bright, curious eyes. "It's a girl," Dr. Chen announced, her voice filled with wonder. "And she's perfect." The child's unique vitality was immediately apparent. As Dr. Chen quickly ran a genetic analysis, her eyes widened in astonishment. "This is incredible," she breathed. "Her DNA, it's a perfect fusion of human and Raman genetics. The compatibility issues, they're simply not present." David leaned in, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his emotional state. "The harmonizer," he realized. "Hope's hybrid state must have created the ideal conditions for—" His words were cut off by another impact, closer this time. The lab's defenses were failing. "We need to perfect the harmonizer," Dr. Chen said urgently. "This child's genetic structure, it's the key we've been missing." As Hope cradled her newborn daughter, David and Dr. Chen worked feverishly. The infant's DNA provided the crucial data needed to fine-tune the harmonizer's capabilities. David's expertise in both species genetics proved invaluable as they made the final adjustments. Outside, the battle raged. Commander Vex's voice crackled over a commandeered communication channel. "We've allied with Xenogard," he reported. "Agent Steele is attempting to secure the facility, but King Zorak's forces are too strong. We can't hold them back much longer." Hope stood, her recovery aided by her hybrid physiology. "We need to face my father," she said, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. "It's the only way to end this." David protested, but Hope's perseverance was unshakable. As they prepared to confront the approaching forces, a final massive impact shook the lab. The doors burst open, and King Zorak stormed in, flanked by his elite guard. The Raman monarch froze at the sight before him. Hope stood tall, cradling her newborn child. David and Dr. Chen flanked her, the perfected harmonizer glowing softly between them. "Father," Hope said, her voice carrying across the sudden silence. "The war you seek is unnecessary. We have found another way." King Zorak's eyes darted between Hope, the child, and the harmonizer. Confusion and hope warred on his face. Dr. Chen stepped forward, activating the harmonizer. A holographic display sprang to life, showing Raman's cellular structures stabilizing, becoming compatible with human DNA without losing their essential Raman characteristics. "This device," Dr. Chen explained, her voice steady, "can solve the fertility crisis without conflict. Your people can survive and thrive in harmony with humans." The Raman king's antennae twitched, absorbing the implications. His guard looked to him, weapons still raised but uncertainty clear in their posture. At that moment, Agent Steele burst into the room, his Xenogard team forming a perimeter. He assessed the situation quickly, his gaze lingering on the newborn child. "Stand down," he ordered his team, then turned to King Zorak. "Your Majesty, I believe we have an opportunity here for peace. My superiors are prepared to open diplomatic channels immediately." King Zorak looked at his daughter, then at his granddaughter. The infant cooed, reaching out with a tiny hand that bore both human fingers and Raman's sensory pads. "Perhaps," the Raman king said slowly, "it is time for a new approach." As weapons lowered and tensions began to ease, Hope and David shared a look of cautious optimism. Their child, born of two worlds, gurgled contentedly, unaware of the monumental shift she had sparked in the course of human and Riemann history. The immediate danger had passed, but the real work of diplomacy, of scientific advancement, of forging a new future for both species, was just beginning. Hope cradled her daughter close, knowing that the path ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, filled with genuine hope. Hope. The future they had fought for was taking shape, but the challenges ahead were just getting started. As the tension in the lab eased, Agent Steele stepped forward, his posture still alert. "We need to move quickly. This facility is no longer secure, and there are a lot of people who will want answers." King Zorak nodded, his regal bearing returning as he addressed his guards. "Stand down. We will hear what the humans have to say." Within hours, Hope, David, and their newborn daughter were whisked away to a secure UN facility in Geneva, Switzerland. Dr. Chen accompanied them, bringing the genetic harmonizer and all related research data. The journey was a blur of military transports and hushed conversations, the weight of two worlds' futures resting on their shoulders. As their aircraft descended into Geneva, Hope cradled Aurora close, marveling at the infant's rapid development. The child's eyes, a striking blend of human and Riemann features, seemed to take in everything with an uncanny awareness. "She's growing so fast," Hope whispered to David, who sat beside her, his hand protectively on her shoulder. David nodded, his scientific mind already racing. "The hybrid physiology must be accelerating her development. We'll need to monitor her closely." The facility that greeted them was a fortress of gleaming steel and glass, filled with both human and Riemann security measures. As they were ushered inside, Hope caught glimpses of harried diplomats and military personnel rushing through the corridors. Dr. Chen was immediately escorted to a state-of-the-art laboratory where she would continue her work on the harmonizer. Hope and David, still adjusting to their new roles as parents and reluctant ambassadors, were led to a secure living quarters. No sooner had they settled in than a knock at the door announced the arrival of United Nations Secretary-General Aisha Mahdi. The tall, imposing woman entered the room, her eyes immediately drawn to Aurora. "I apologize for the intrusion," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her office. "But time is of the essence. The Security Council is convening as we speak, and the world needs answers." Hope straightened, instinctively holding Aurora closer. "We understand, Madam Secretary General. What do you need from us?" "Everything," Mahdi replied. "Your story, your knowledge, your vision for the future. Both our peoples stand at a crossroads, and you two, three, may be the key to preventing a catastrophic war." Over the next few days, Hope and David found themselves at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. They testified before the UN Security Council, fielding questions about Riemann biology, culture, and intentions. Aurora's presence during these sessions caused a stir, her rapid growth and unique abilities becoming a subject of intense fascination. As negotiations between Earth's governments and the Riemann leadership progressed, Hope couldn't shake a sense of unease. The diplomatic smiles and handshakes masked undercurrents of fear and mistrust on both sides. This tension came to a head during a closed-door session with military leaders from several nations. General Hawthorne, a grizzled American veteran, leaned across the table, his eyes hard. "How do we know this isn't some sort of Trojan horse?" he demanded. "For all we know, that child could be the vanguard of an invasion force." Before Hope could respond, a calm voice cut through the room. "If we wanted to invade, General, we would not need subterfuge." All heads turned to see Commander Vex entering the chamber, flanked by Xenogard agents. The Riemann officer's presence sent a ripple of murmurs through the assembled humans. "Commander Vex speaks for a growing faction among my people." King Zorak's voice emanated from a holographic projector at the center of the table. "Many Ramans see the potential for cooperation rather than conflict." As the debate raged on, Hope found her attention drawn to Aurora, who sat quietly in a specially designed chair, her eyes darting from speaker to speaker with unnerving comprehension. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds flickered to life, showing chaos erupting at Riemann diplomatic outposts across the globe. Simultaneously, reports flooded in of a coup attempt aboard the Riemann flagship in orbit. "Earth First extremists," Agent Steele reported grimly, rushing into the room. They're coordinating with a Riemann conservative faction led by Krellnox. As the chamber erupted into frantic activity, Hope locked eyes with David. In that moment, they both knew what they had to do. "We need to make a public demonstration," Hope announced, her voice cutting through the clamor. "Show both humans and Riemanns the success of our union, the potential of the harmonizer." David nodded, squeezing her hand. "It's risky, but it might be our only chance to prevent all-out war." As plans for the demonstration rapidly took shape, Hope cradled Aurora close, acutely aware of the dangers that surrounded them. The fate of two worlds now rested on their shoulders, and the path ahead was fraught with peril. Peril and uncertainty. Yet as Hope met David's determined gaze, she felt a surge of perseverance. They had come too far to falter now. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Security teams from both human and Riemann forces worked tirelessly to secure the specially constructed arena in Geneva, where the public demonstration would take place. Hope and David spent countless hours refining their presentation on the genetic harmonizer, acutely aware of the weight their words would carry. As dawn broke on the day of the demonstration, Hope stood at the window of their quarters, cradling Aurora. The child, now resembling a toddler due to her accelerated growth, peered out at the city with wide, curious eyes. "Ready?" David asked, placing a hand on Hope's shoulder. She nodded, her hybrid features set with perseverance. "As will ever be." The journey to the arena was tense, their convoy surrounded by a phalanx of security vehicles. As they approached, Hope caught glimpses of the massive crowds gathered outside. Humans and Riemanns alike, their faces a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Inside the arena, the atmosphere crackled with nervous energy. Hope and David were ushered to a secure preparation area, where they found Commander Vex waiting for them. "The arena is secure," he reported, his antennae twitching slightly. "But be on your guard. There are tensions we cannot fully account for." Hope nodded, exchanging a knowing glance with David. They had both sensed the undercurrents of unease that had permeated the preparations. As they took their positions on the stage, Hope's gaze swept across the packed arena. Humans and Riemanns sat side by side, an unprecedented gathering that highlighted both the progress made and the fragility of their current peace. David began the presentation, his voice steady as he explained the principles behind the genetic harmonizer. Hope watched the crowd, noting the mix of skepticism and hope on their faces. As David concluded his portion, Hope stepped forward. Aurora balanced on her hip. "What we present today is more than a scientific breakthrough," she began. "It is a bridge between our peoples, a path to a shared future." As Hope spoke, she noticed a subtle shift in the crowd, a ripple of movement, barely perceptible but setting her instincts on high alert. She locked eyes with Commander Vex, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. He had seen it too. Hope continued her speech, her senses heightened. As she prepared to activate the harmonizer on the group of volunteer Riemanns who had stepped forward, chaos erupted. A group of security personnel suddenly broke formation, revealing themselves as Earth First extremists. Simultaneously, a contingent of Riemann delegates surged forward, Krellnox's loyalists making their move. "David!" Hope shouted, tossing Aurora to her father as she spun to face the oncoming attackers. Hope's Riemann combat training kicked in as she engaged the first wave of Earth First agents. Her hybrid physiology gave her an edge, allowing her to anticipate and counter their moves with fluid grace. Nearby, David had set Aurora down behind a hastily overturned table, grabbing lab equipment to fend off the approaching extremists. The arena had devolved into a battleground. Security forces clashed with the infiltrators, while panicked civilians sought cover. Through the chaos, Hope caught sight of a group of Krellnox's loyalists making a beeline for Aurora. With a surge of maternal fury, Hope fought her way towards her daughter. She vaulted over a fallen barricade, landing squarely in front of the Riemann attackers. "You will not touch her," she snarled, her voice carrying both human commitment and Riemann ferocity. As Hope engaged the would-be kidnappers, she became aware of a new presence joining the fray. King Zorak, his regal bearing transformed into battle-ready poise, fought his way to her side. "Father," Hope gasped, ducking under a swinging fist. "Did you think I would stand idly by while my family was threatened?" The Raman king replied, his antennae quivering with almost unchecked rage. Together, father and daughter formed a formidable defense, keeping Aurora safe as the battle raged around them. David, having jury-rigged a makeshift stun device from lab equipment, joined them, creating a protective circle around their daughter. Just as it seemed the tide might turn against them, a familiar voice cut through the din. "Incoming! Clear the center!" Commander Vex, leading a contingent of his rogue Raymans, burst into the arena. At his side was Agent Steele, coordinating a Xenoguard strike team. The new arrivals engaged the attackers with precision, slowly but surely gaining the upper hand. As the fighting began to subside, Hope became aware of a strange sensation. A wave of calm seemed to be spreading through the arena, affecting humans and Raymans alike. She turned to see Aurora standing atop the overturned table, her small form radiating an intense, pulsating energy. The child's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as she projected a powerful, harmonizing force throughout the arena. Attackers and defenders alike lowered their weapons, a look of profound peace settling over their features. Hope and David shared a look of amazement. Their daughter, it seemed, was a living embodiment of the harmony they sought to create between their species. Seizing the moment, Hope reached for the genetic harmonizer. "David, quickly!" Understanding immediately, David helped her activate the device. The harmonizer's energy merged with Aurora's natural ability, creating a cascading wave that washed over the entire arena and beyond. As the energy dissipated, a hush fell over the crowd. Humans and Raymans, who moments ago had been locked in mortal combat, now stood side by side, a newfound understanding dawning in their eyes. King Zorak stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Aurora. The Reman monarch's face softened as he looked at his granddaughter, then turned to address the stunned audience. "Today, we have witnessed the true power of unity," he declared, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena and to the billions watching worldwide. "I hereby declare an immediate end to all Rayman aggression towards Earth. Let this be the beginning of a new era, one of cooperation, understanding, and shared prosperity between our peoples." As the king's words sank in, a cautious optimism began to spread through the crowd. Hope and David, with Aurora between them, stood at the center of it all, the living proof of what their two species could achieve together. The demonstration, while not going according to plan, had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. As medical teams moved in to tend to the injured and security forces began rounding up the subdued attackers, Hope knew that their work was not nearly finished. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with diplomatic hurdles and lingering prejudices to overcome. But as she looked at her family, her human husband, her Rayman father, and her unique, powerful daughter, Hope felt a surge of confidence. The future they had fought for was finally within reach, and they would face it together, as a family and as a bridge between two worlds.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.